Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I am Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Mohr, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are reviewing The Exorcism of God. Yes, that's right. Let me introduce the crew, starting off with the Living Dead group. Crystal Cleveland, how you doing?
I'm great. I think I still have God within me. That sounds so. Yeah, as I was like formulating it to say, I was like, ooh, maybe I should just back that up.
And there was no puppy backing up on that one. All right, award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Mohr is also with us. And look at that face. Look at that face.
He's always disappointed in me. It's too bad.
Well, you fulfill elements of this film and how it made me feel very uncomfortable. Anytime you have like the exorcist level of things that evil people say when they're possessed by a devil.
No.
So, your mother. Yeah.
But I will say, the power of Evil Dead compels you. I'll just say that much.
The power of Evil Dead compels you. Perfect. I love it. All right. We are here to review Exorcism of God. What we're going to do is start off giving our first impression. That will be spoiler free. And then we'll dive into a discussion. We'll likely get into some spoilers, so beware. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score, 1 to 5, and our favorite scenes. So please, we hope you enjoyed not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And you can hit the subscribe button, the like button, or share with a friend. It will do wonders for us, and we will thank you. Right, guys? We will thank you.
Yep, totally.
And, of course, leave your comments down below. All right, what is this film we are talking about? The Exorcism of God, available in theaters, on-demand digital, March 11th, 2022. Director is Alejandro Hidalgo. No, I put the L in the wrong
Hidalgo,
yeah. Writers is Santiago Fernandez Cavetti and Alejandro. Alejandro.
I think it's funny that you pronounced it differently than it's the same name.
Yeah.
And it's
same person. Yeah.
The cast, the wonderful cast, includes Joseph Mitchell, Maria Gabrielle, and Will Ben Beanbrick.
Yeah, one of those.
Honestly, that's the one that trips me up the most. I'm like, wait,
okay.
Beanbrick? I don't know.
Coffee hasn't kicked in yet. All right, the synopsis: an American priest working in Mexico is possessed during an exorcism and ends up committing a terrible act. 18 years later, the consequences of his sin come back to haunt him, unleashing the greatest battle within.
Okay, so that poster is really nice looking, I gotta say. I think it's pretty cool looking, and I like the reflection, how it actually makes the cross.
Upside down.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. It's cool.
Yes, very much.
I feel like that we're leading up to like I gotta find something nice to say about this.
Yeah.
Start off with, all right. Well, let's get into our first impressions. Christopher G. Mohr, why don't you start us off?
Well, if you know anything about me, there's certain movies I don't sometimes like, and mainly because it kind of freaks me out. And it's usually anything that's kind of either demonic or religious sometimes, and this has elements of that where I was very uncomfortable watching parts of this, but on a purpose, because I feel like it definitely pays homage to The Exorcist. There's even one shot where the priest shows up and the light shining outside the house, and I was like, how many times are we going to see that shot?
Yeah, no kidding.
But it does some interesting things when it actually kind of I feel like it combines a little bit of Evil Dead with The Exorcist. The way the people are possessed, they're very deadite. And I kind of like that, especially. I think they do something different with it, where you have some people they have like 2 different colored eyes sometimes on certain things, and I think how they take religious imagery and make that kind of creepy. That there's the guy who directed RoboCop. He directed a movie called The Fourth Man, where you have, it's a different type of story where this guy has visions of the guy on the cross coming to life and stuff. But that was more like, I guess, psychosexual or whatever. But it definitely, I mean, it definitely creates imagery around certain things that we normally associate, especially with Catholicism and stuff. And I'm sure some people will be really turned off to that, but I found it to be kind of creepy. And I think the sound design really works. I think there are parts where the drama goes off into like soap operaville. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably my biggest complaint, because then I just like, let's just get back to the creepy stuff of the creepy prison and possessed people and that kind of thing. But I think how it takes the sort of exorcism thing and kind of flips it without giving too much away towards the end, I thought was actually kind of brilliant. It's something I've never seen before in any of these type of films. So I think to take that and twist it works really well. But yeah, I was actually kind of creeped out by certain scenes when you have the creepy imagery. But it does feel like it's paying tribute to those type of things. And it tries to fall in the Exorcist vein, especially with the possessed Reagan. Is it Reagan in the Exorcist? Is that the
Yes, Reagan?
Yes.
Okay. When she's like saying all these horrible things to the priest, we have that kind of element, except the priest has more of a connection to the person who's possessed. And I think when, and yeah, there's certain things like, oh, this is making me feel icky. It's like these things happening. And I also thought it was kind of cool that we get the what's it, the butler from the Fresh Prince is now
that's who that was.
Yeah, so that for me, I was like, oh, it's great that we're sort of seeing him in a different role, and I thought he was wonderful.
Me too.
But yeah, I don't know. I actually really enjoyed it, mainly because of the concept, and of course I'm always a sucker for anybody that seems to have it. I mean, I don't know if it was on purpose, but it felt like very Evil Dead-ish in the way that people are possessed, because they weren't like normal possessed. There was a little bit of there's like one scene that has some very noticeable CGI with people going up a wall. That was like,
oh, that was, and not even need it. Not even need it.
I didn't even need it. Yeah, I mean, we already got like the crawling backwards type thing. It was working the way it was.
Let's save some
but
of
anyway,
that for the review. Yeah, let's save some of that for the review. Crystal, give us your first impression.
Okay, so I love these type of supernatural movies. They're actually my favorite. Supernatural, especially religious supernatural movies, are totally my favorite. Like, I love Stigmata and that sort of thing. I love The Exorcist, of course, as well. This one, I completely agree with Christopher. Like, at the end, I really loved how they did a little twist there, and I was like, oh, that's fun. It's different. It's kind of clever, and I actually really enjoyed it. So that is probably one of the better parts of the movie. I could not agree more that I feel like the possessed people were like the Deadites. So I liked the movie. I found it enjoyable, and I had a good time watching it. Except I had an issue with it tonally, because when I first started watching it, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was. I feel so bad, but I thought it was trying to be funny, because she is kind of like a Deadeye, and the way she's like. Okay, so I'm not giving too much away. It's the beginning scene. And she's like got this tongue coming. I was just like, they're kidding, right? This is a joke. This can't be real. They're not being serious with this. But as it goes on, you realize, yeah, they really are kind of being serious with it. But so I kind of had to come to terms with the fact that it kind of tonally is odd. At points are very, very serious. And then there's these, actually, I really liked the possessed people. That's what's so funny. I was like, I enjoyed that, but it was the priest is probably the weakest point of the movie for me. I don't think he did a bad job in his role. I just didn't care about him. I didn't feel him or care about him. So that was probably the one thing that really kept me from enjoying the movie a lot. I think I think he was charming. I think he had everything going for him, but I don't know. Something fell flat and short, and I just couldn't relate to him. So, and some of the Catholicism stuff, it's like, okay, you have to be pure and this, meh, meh. I felt like it was a little long, but overall, some of the stuff was really clever, and I laughed. I freaking laughed at multiple points because I was like, that's so awesome and funny and weird, and I dig it. Like my favorite scene. Yeah. So the concept is cool. I think a lot of people will enjoy it. I don't think it's scary. I think it's funny, but I'm probably wrong. It's probably meant to be very serious.
Yeah. I think it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their nipples were like all hard. I'm like, they can't be serious, right? I mean,
Well, there was a reason why.
Do.
Yeah. So let's save some of that discussion for the discussion part. My initial impressions of this is I absolutely loved it. I'm a sucker for supernatural and possession films, and I enjoy this. I do agree with Crystal. It is at times all over the place, and the ending, the very very ending, is an example of that. Totally didn't need to go there. But the and most of the special effects are good, and then every once in a while, it's like, wow, you could have just cut that scene out. But what really won me over was there is some imagery in here that scared me is saying too much, but it got me in.
oh,
It
fun.
did give me there's it's usually the imagery in the church or the orphanage, and then of course the prison. I enjoyed that location, but what I liked more than that was the descriptions of those that location, especially from Joseph Marcel when he comes in and he's like, is this really where we're going? And so I guess at times it did kind of have this weird sense of humor, but there's some parts of this that I thought really were, well, I mean, that's the thing. Some of the parts were really good, like these scary little bits that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. And then there are some that's like, well, that's kind of cliche and corny. So I was fighting myself during it, but in the end, I really enjoyed it. Yeah. But I will admit, I'm a sucker for these.
Me too.
I am a sucker for these films.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we want to get back to what you were getting ready to go with there, Crystal and Christopher, about the beginning. You thought was so funny. You said, well, what was interesting is that you first talked about the tongue, and then you talked about the girl's nipples getting hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the tongue was really cool. I was like, oh, that's
no, I thought
cool.
it was cool. I just thought it was funny, though. It was funny.
The devil has a sense of humor.
I was like,
the devil is playing. The devil's not going to be all serious about it. He's going to be playing. He sees it as a game, and so I mean.
But then after that, it was just her trying to seduce the priest, and knew
I was uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable,
and had
but
weakness
see,
for it. So.
I think that is I thought that was very clever. I think that is, I think that's the easiest way to prey on his weakness.
Well, I mean, and I can understand how some of that stuff can either be uncomfortable to people or be funny, because there's also a scene later where her possessed daughter, this blood drops out. It's like, you're making me all wet. Like,
yes, I know.
I was like, this is
I died.
So
I mean, I was like, oh my God. Okay, I'm messed up.
I mean, and there's I think I'm getting creeped out by just thinking about it, because it's just icky, because the very opening scene where she's basically masturbating, and you hear like
with the wet sounds.
Yes! The sound design, I think if anything is a standout, the sound design, because it made you like, oh God, I don't need to hear that.
It was like
oh, it's very wet and squishy. Yeah, and I was like, oh, God, that's a little too much there. But I think it was I feel like that was what a demonic entity, if it possessed you, I think that's what they would do. They would be over the top with everything, you know, because it's really trying to. It's not going to be subtle with its sexuality around a priest. It's going to be full on. Hey, you know. But yeah, I mean, I can understand that. And I think that's also why, you know, I guess why I see the Evil Dead aspect of it, because it's what the Deadites are like. Na 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 na. I'm gonna get you type thing. But I don't know. I love the sound design. I love there's a lot of things with darkness. I think a lot of the scares, a lot of the creepy visuals work so well for me. There's a really great scare with the person in the corner. That's a practical effect that I absolutely loved, and I want to steal that in a future film.
Do it.
Well, I will say that I will say that this is one of the rare times where when I get scared, I scream Jesus Christ, and it has some irony attached to it.
Well, I mean, just the imagery of that, and like the Mary or whatever. There's like a statue of Mary, and it felt very. It also felt very Stephen King's It, with the bulging eyes. It felt very similar to that, where you have the clown, and because every time the different entity, whether it's the Jesus or the Mary, they always had like a different colored eyes. It was like almost like an orange blue eye, and that made it even creepier because they had these bulging eyes on it. And I was like, ugh.
The bulging eyes just made them look off. That really worked. Sorry, Doc. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I like that they made this mythology about the 5, and then there was up to 5 different possessed people at one time.
Oh well, you know, like that's kind of typical with possessions. Like I Am Legion. Yeah, like typically when people are possessed, they're possessed with more than one demon.
Yeah, but I liked how it was represented.
Well, that and because we're now in Spoilerville, I will say I find it kind of brilliant that to possess people were trying to bring God out of the.
I know. I loved that. I loved it.
Never seen that in any film or anything I've read. I don't know if that's been written probably in some kind of literature, but I thought that was, which I guess is explaining the title. I just thought that was brilliant. Where they're almost doing the similar type of stuff. You know, that like the power. The power of the devil compels you level.
The power of reverse compels you.
You know, the reverse of that. I don't know. I thought that was really kind of brilliant. They even put like an upside down cross on it and stuff. I was like, this is the price of admission right here of watching this. Is that specifically part of it?
I was like, this is so weird. But I honestly, I almost wish we had gotten to that sooner because I could have dealt with some more of that. I think it's fascinating. But of course he made a deal. Which
you know, with the other priests, it sort of did a similar thing. So I was hoping that it wouldn't have to go that route. But I mean, I will say that the ending is very
cliche,
Twilight Zone-y.
You mean after that? Yeah.
Yeah, the ending. I was like,
But I kind of thought it was cute too.
But also,
because God played his own little trick there. You know, I think that's kind of cute.
But then you also have the
implications of going back to the church is what. Really...
But then now I just thought about this. His eyes are more orange, and then because she's like the godly one, her eyes are more light, blue. And so like the demonic things they see have the opposite eyes, so they're one of each. I was like,
well, technically they'd still be like fallen angels, so they could still be, you know, kind of polluted.
But I will say that like even though there's tropish type stuff, there was always interesting. I love that how the accomplished priest was talking about that instead of just throwing holy water, we just put steam. We steam holy water. And that gets everybody, so they can't jump. I was like, that's actually kind of brilliant. I've never heard of that. I mean, when they create new ways of sort of, you know, fighting demons and stuff, I thought that was really kind of brilliant.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what works with this movie. Like I said, the only thing that I felt was lacking is that I just wasn't all into the priest.
Well, I think that's,
you know.
I think that also plays into the larger aspect of some of the drama parts. They just I don't know what I mean. He felt like it felt like one of these Mexican novellas or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like I made her pregnant. It's like I don't
Oh,
know.
gosh.
His delivery was very, and I
Maybe
guess he's a
that's what it
priest,
was.
but his I don't know. His delivery is very staunch or very like I don't know.
I
It
think he
felt,
was better once he lost God. Because, like, at the end, you could see a change in him. Like, I found that, that
maybe it's
worked.
the hesitancy or something with his character, but I do see that because I think every time it would go and he'd be talking to the girl and they'd be all like the dramatic parts. I was like, let's just get back to people
Yeah.
being possessed.
Yeah, I think.
Please.
Okay, so that I'm not the only one. Okay, because I'm like, that was the only part I felt that I was like, I don't really care what happens to you, and I should. You're the main character. I should care about you, but I don't.
Well, that's a big drop,
Yeah,
a big flaw. Then, if that's
yeah,
what's happening.
that's unfortunate.
All right. Well, let's dive into our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene. Christopher G. Mohr, start us off.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised by this. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but I think when it delves into the creepiness and when it sort of creates its own new way of dealing with the Exorcist type stories, I thought it was kind of brilliant in that respect. I think the drama aspects of it kind of that's when I thought it was cheesy or campy. It's those parts where they're trying to be dramatic. But I do like that. I feel like the imagery, the creepy imagery, using a lot of the things that we associate with like Catholicism or religion, whether it's the statue of Jesus or the statue of Mary, those parts actually kind of creep me out. But I get kind of creeped out by some religious demonic type stuff like Exorcist and Amityville Horror actually kind of creep me out. I haven't watched any of those since I was younger because Exorcist gives me nightmares actually.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But this felt tolerable to me because it felt like more of a polished version of that. You know what I mean? This felt like Exorcist version 2.
Exorcist Light is what I would
well,
say.
it to me it felt like amping up all the elements that you like about those things. But at the same time also having the cheesy drama stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I actually kind of dug it. I'll give it a, I don't know. I made a real impression on me. So I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Good. Yeah.
I think there were still elements. There's a really bad CGI crazy Jesus crawling up the wall scene that's like, he could have just been going down the hallway and that'd be okay. But
that's the scene I was referring to. Just cut that little segment out and everything else.
Yeah, because it didn't
Hey.
look real at all.
Y'all are
What?
talking about my favorite scene is
No,
the
shit,
cross.
really?
The crucifix, not him crawling on the
Oh
wall.
no, okay, no.
But when you see him walking down with carrying like he like
Oh,
he did,
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
I like my
Cut it-
jaw dropped and I was like, that looks beautiful. And then you see the face and I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah, I don't think that's what we're talking about.
Oh
but
no,
yeah,
I love
Yeah.
that part. I just love it. I just hate it when he becomes Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah,
by the end of it.
why did they do that? What?
When he becomes Spider Jesus or whatever.
Spider
It's
Jesus.
like,
But
but there's other stuff involved in that too. There's a great moment where he's in the corner of the room of the chapel, and he's going up to him, and you see the back of his hair, and then the hair blows, and it's his front. I was like, whoa, that's freaking awesome. So there's so many like things that like, oh wow, this is really well done, and the scares and the sound design and stuff. It's just other stuff that doesn't make it work as well. But still, I loved it. As for favorite scene, I mean, I'm gonna have to take the reverse exorcism.
yeah,
I mean, which is in the title, but you don't really think that they're going to be that literal, but literal to the point of creating something really new for this genre, a really new way of going about it, and I just love that where these possessed people are trying to bring God out of the guy instead of bringing demon. I was like, that's a brilliant concept. I really like that. That kind of blew me away. I was like, this is actually really cool. It's little creepy, sacrilegious, but really cool. Yeah. So that's probably the scene that probably my favorite scene in the film.
I like that. I like that a lot. Crystal, your final thoughts, your score, and your favorite scene.
Okay, so I agree with like clearly, obviously everything. I'm gonna give it 3.75, because I really liked it too, and I really enjoyed it, and I'd watch it again. And I dig the freaking. There's a lot of practical effects and makeup and stuff, and I think a lot of people who like that will enjoy it just for that. So that's good. I've already said my favorite scene. I when I saw this, like, you see this figure, obviously with the silhouette, with the light coming, carrying this cross, and I mean, obviously, anyone who has been to church knows exactly what that is. And I was like, oh, I can't believe they did this. And I was like, oh. And then you see it's like zombie Jesus, so it kind of just got me. I just thought he looked so cool. I think whoever did the makeup did a great job on that. And I just love the idea of the big cross and the way it was done. And fortunately, I'm totally with you guys. As soon as he jumped up on the wall, I was like, sometimes you just have to stop. Like, he could have just walked.
You didn't need to jump on the wall.
Yeah, they could have done jump cuts where they just made him jump over to him or something. That would have been better than woof.
Never go full Spider-Man.
Yes. No. I mean, wait a minute. Like, yep. But yeah, so overall, obviously, we actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So one other thing about the scene with down the end of the hallway with the cross and everything, the sound design in that scene was really good too, because before he shows up, you hear the dragging of the large cross, right? And you hear, and it's actually scary. Because we've already heard it once, right? We heard that sound in the dark hallway. We didn't know what I think they were looking out a door, and we didn't know what it was, right? We just heard the sound. So I really dug that, and the effort that they put into the new stuff. So there's new stuff, and then there's stuff that's kind of like, that's derivative, and then you got the soap opera stuff too, and then so it's really strange. In that respect, but in the end, I found that the stuff I loved, especially the ending, won me over, and it didn't matter about the other things. It still was. This is a great film, and it's a fun film to watch, and I definitely want to see it again. 4.0 is my score as well. 4 out of 5. And Yay. My favorite scene, since you guys took the others, is going to be the scene when I guess the nurses are in the hallway or down in this room, and there's statues at the end, right? One's Mary, right? And it comes to life and becomes one of these creatures, and we see it. It's just, I thought it was incredibly creepy and really interesting the way they realized it and kept it around for other scenes too, which where you guys were seeing deadites and other things, I was seeing a lot of like The Conjuring and The Nun. I was thinking that kind of thing.
Wow, really?
Especially not with the exorcism scenes, but with those scenes with the statues and instead of a nun we get Jesus Christ at the end of the scene. But anyway, there you go. That's I'm going to stick with it. That's my read. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the review of Exorcism of God. Look for it streaming VOD on exactly the 11th of March 2022. Be sure to leave your comments down below. Crystal, thank you for joining me. So much fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Very much. Always fun to talk about creepy people in a church.
Yep.
We do that often, though, in our discussions.
Very often.
Yeah, you could take odds and win some. All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.